Welcome, everybody, to the Resilient Minds podcast. I'm excited, grateful, and pumped to welcome Dr. Benjamin Ritter. Welcome to the show, bro. It's good to connect
I'm
with you.
I'm very, very happy to be here. I have to admit, I have sometimes I get random thoughts and I just like to share them. I wonder if that automatic recording sound that comes on when you hit recording on like Zoom or something,
Yeah,
is that a computer or is that a person? And like if I want to think that it was a person and someone's getting paid a ton of money for their voice for every single time you hit the recording button. I'm just gonna think that. I know it's not true, but we're going with it.
I love it. I love it, brother. Thank you. And maybe it is somebody. Maybe it's somebody's beautiful voice and intention that gets royalties on it all. So this is the fun part where we get to now maybe in the future, what we're sharing now will be a recording that people get to hit play and they're like, wow, spark of confidence. So this is the intention of this show. For those that don't know, Dr. Benjamin Ritter is founder of Live for Yourself Consulting. He's been in international leadership and career coaching, also senior talent management consultant, top career development and executive coaching. He's been a voice on LinkedIn, international speaker, and really focuses on two podcasts, the executive podcast and the Live for Yourself Revolution podcast. So he spent over 20 years of executive level professional experience in leadership, talent development, and he's really learned to coach clients at some of the most well-known global organizations, including Amazon, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Coursera, DoorDash, Google, Mayo Clinic, Northwestern University, and PayPal. Some of these amazing passions include working with Better For You, small business founders, and minority owned companies for which he offers pro bono coaching services. So he's a doctorate in organizational leadership with focus on value congruence and job satisfaction with an MBA in entrepreneurial management. So, brother, welcome to the show. Grateful to have your level of awareness and intellect here so that we can really magnify a level of support for those that are listening. And thanks for all that you do, my friend.
Thank you for having me. A long bunch of words short. I try to help people become more proactive in their careers. So generally, we just kind of float when it comes to our professional life. We forget that a lot of the stuff we learn in our personal development journeys can also be applied to our careers. And, I was an individual
Amen.
that felt like really, really lost personally and went on a journey 4 or 5 years later of putting myself in uncomfortable situations and learning everything I could and making new connections and going on adventures. I was a new person, but in my career, I was still unbelievably lost. And that led to resentment, frustration, and anger. And so I decided, well, I'm going to change that too. Luckily, I had a little bit of a light bulb moment. So all that stuff that you just read is just kind of in a nutshell. I try to help people feel more accountable and more empowered to take advantage of what we can really truly do for our careers.
Thank you. This is really beautiful because it's something that really is the responsible role that I believe those of us that take that internal journey really get to step into if we choose to. And we can all do it, whether we're working for somebody or inside of an organizational structure. We can really show up with that level where people can shine. And I'm curious, before we get into all of that, what started the journey? I always talk about how the experience of our life really cultivates the why of why we continue to manifest our big purpose, our big why. So, what has been type of like maybe the breaking point or the transition point or the transformational opportunity that gave you that certainty of knowing, okay, this is it. I'm about to step into a new paradigm and I'm gonna do whatever it takes.
There's all these little tiny serendipitous moments in time. Like I can almost see like these flashes of memories. But there's two interests of mine that are kind of deviations of my main career. There's my interest in investments in like better for you CPG products, so like better for you food products, and my advocacy and investment in psychedelic in the psychedelic industry. And both of those very much can be connected to come up like those moments specifically. Like the Better for You CPG world was actually my first passion, well, first very difficult experience when I was younger, and it was an unhealthy obsession with like food and nutrition when I was trying to become a professional soccer player. That was going to be my initial career path, but then the school canceled my major, and so that led into my interest in public health and health policy, which led into working in healthcare, which is where I had these experiences in my career, which ended up leading me into organizational leadership and talent development and coaching. And also, kind of that those experiences led me to losing my identity and diving into personal development and coaching. The psychedelic industry in itself was more so also a byproduct of my interests in public health and being able to surpass some of these issues that we have with confidence and trying to figure out who we are as individuals and then learning where we might want to spend more of our time. But the actual moment where I kind of woke up was when I was working in healthcare. I was pretty like good at my job. I was a high achiever. I was perceived as someone that could go far in the organization, but honestly, I was going into work to not work. I would sneak in, I'd sneak out at lunch, I'd spend, I'd be 2 hours out of the office, come back in. This is when we were still like working in office. I would do everything in my power to not do work and to avoid anyone that I worked with. At the same time, I was surrounded by leaders that I didn't respect, that I would consider authoritarian and toxic, where people would be coming to me crying about their experiences. And I was like very much playing a victim and playing the blame game of everyone around me, and forgot that I actually had power to impact and control a lot of my environment. And luckily, when I was like walking into work one day, I did a lot of work on myself personally before this, but so luckily, almost like some synapses connected for some reason. Like I was looking around me, and everyone seemed to be walking into work feeling like I felt, like they had the weight of the world on their shoulders. They were dreading the day, and they were just like these zombies. And I was looking at them almost like I was looking at a mirror, and it hit me. Everything that I've done for myself personally, I can do for myself professionally. I'm curating this environment and these feelings in this moment. What can I do to change it? And that's when I started really putting in the effort to figure out the hard questions, but they're the simple questions. What do I care about? What do I want to create in my career? What are the skills that I want to take advantage of? What are the experiences that I want to have? Like when I'm retired, what projects and what impact will I want to have on the world? And that information allowed me to connect the dots with a lot of my professional interests and led me into leadership development and talent development and coaching and such. And I was able to pivot my career.
I love it. And I love you mentioned something so profound because this is actually so resonant in my experience, especially after university, is I worked at a firm and I remember this environment that I went in and it just wasn't as empowering as they had made it played out to be. And I realized at that time that it was just something was not going to change. And so the only thing that I could change was me. And so it's interesting how we go down these journeys of personal development, and then you're like, okay, well, now I have to play a more responsible role, but it's like you step into it, you have to choose to. So by you going away, did you take yourself out of the environment? Where did you put yourself? What kind of led to getting more curious about this responsibility that you knew you figured out you had?
Well, I actually stayed in the environment, but I changed my perspective in it, which can be incredibly powerful. A lot of individuals that I work with, their leaders are unhappy. It's generally they're stuck in a cycle of a negative frame of reference and belief system when it comes to to what they're where they're
Beautiful.
working each and every single day. So they've had like one bad or two bad experiences with the leader. So now every way they see that leader, the frame of reference is this is a toxic, this is a terrible person, no matter how they show up, no matter what they do. Or this is a terrible job, it's a waste of my time. If you start believing that, all of a sudden now you put on a different lens on. And so what I did is I actually like took the lens off, which was really neat. Because then I was able to go in each and every single day and say, how do I make the most of today towards the goals that I've now defined? And that led me to go to my VP and say, hey, I want to go work in this space of leadership development. How do I do it? And she goes, well, we have a corporate office. Go work for them. Go do some projects for them. And so I still did my job, but then I got involved from the corporate level on these projects. And that could have been like the start of a whole new career. Sadly, we got acquired again, and everyone I was working with pretty much got let go, and all the projects I was working on got stopped. But I was in this mentality now, which was not the victim mentality, but it was the proactive, how do I create opportunities? And so then I thought to myself, well, I'm going to go do some projects outside the company. I'm going to go find opportunities outside the company. And that ended up leading to some roadblocks. I did find some opportunities, made some connections, but truly what ended up happening is I kept looking for the paths to take. And you can have the same goal, but there's a infinite amount of paths to get there. If the path that you're on stops, you take your shovel out and you make another one to go to the to go to the path next to you.
Amen.
And so that path that I ended up on was actually going to get my doctorate in the field because I knew how to start a coaching business. I had a coaching business before. I knew I could create a business in the space, but I had no credibility or expertise or I didn't know where I wanted to play yet. And so I thought, well, I'm going to go get skilled. I'm going to go become credible. I'm going to go do research. I'm going to go make this big investment in this path because I know I'm going to go walk on it. And I just don't know exactly where it's going to show up, like what summit I'm going to go to next. But I know that if I keep walking forwards, I'm going to figure that out. And that led to me founding Live for Yourself Consulting in like the end of 2016, 2017. I started the program in 2015, left healthcare 2018, and then been building this business and then working and learning and kind of talent development ever since. But it was, it's just like once you set a direction and set an intention, how you get there doesn't matter as much as the fact that you know you're going to get there and you're traveling in the right direction. So that's and you start changing your environment. You start building new relationships. You start reading different books. You start like it's just this whole change in your intention and your activity from like how you show up each and every single day.
And for those people that are out there right now, and maybe, they're creative, they're innovative, they have an intelligence, and, they want to start, they want to go into, maybe building a coaching business, maybe building a consulting business, maybe offering advice to people that are capable of like learning from them. You did it in a way that you were able to get your doctorate in the field. Explain a little bit about how that was able to merge there. And so, if anybody is out there listening right now, what that would look like for somebody that wanted to maybe be more credible or define, because, yeah, let's just, because I can go into a whole train of thought.
Yeah, I have a couple different answers, and I want to see where you want to take us because the
Yeah.
doctor to me was I don't know yet where I want to play. I love education. I want to get a doctorate, and just because I really like learning. And it was a kind of a check mark I wanted to and just in my professional experiences. But it was also an opportunity for me as a younger person at the time that wants to get involved in leadership development, where people tend to have gray hairs, to get them to at least to like open the door enough with the chain still on just to look at me. I just needed someone to look at me. And so that's what I thought the doctorate would also do. There's a variety of reasons. I did not just go get my doctorate to start a business. That was not the case. If that was the case, I never would have got the doctorate because I actually built my first coaching practice off of writing blogs and articles, going on in actually live shows, going on podcasts were kind of just starting, but I really built my audience and built my mailing list off of in-person events. And that was initially with partnerships with little communities that had related brands. And then I started hosting my own events. And then I started inviting speakers. And like, when you think about like starting a coaching business, there is a lot of different ways where some people might just lean directly into social media. You don't need a lot of people to make money as a coach. You just need a community of people that align with your values and your interests and what you're trying to achieve. You can do that in a lot of different ways. I did it for me through events. And then honestly, when the world shut down, my events, I realized I could go virtual. And then my mailing list and my audience just exploded in terms of the amount of reach that I was able to achieve. And so the doctorate itself, honestly, what that's been useful for is probably getting some of the more like enterprise clients. My individual one-on-one clients were built from local events and then giving my coaching away for free initially. and then doing good work and building trust, and that builds referrals, and eventually you do that long enough, you build momentum because you have enough of a brand that can withstand the test of time. But I kind of veered away from the doctorate, so I'm happy to go there and explain like the benefit of it. But I thought this was important to comment on initially because I don't want anyone to hear doctorate and think, well, I can't afford that, or I
Yeah.
can't do that, or I've never been good at school, etc. But that was right for me for just a lot of other reasons.
Yeah. So in the doctorate part, I think that so it's not necessary for people to go into getting that doctorate. That's really what I wanted to come up. It's like you can still go out there and be innovative and be creative and build a business and be very integral in that business without necessarily needing to go and get a doctorate degree. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's 100% what you just heard. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And
So
I
cool,
did
bro.
not go
So
get my doctorate to start the business. I want to make that very
that's right.
clear. I went to get the doctorate because I love education. I wanted to have that credential. It was important to me. And I wanted to do research, and I wanted to play in a space where I would be surrounded by other academic professionals. I actually initially thought I wanted to get my PhD in social psychology. I went and volunteered in a bunch of labs, and I just didn't like it. It wasn't for me. And I was on a search for where I wanted to work professionally in the space. I didn't know where that was going to be, and that's why I went back. I went to get my doctorate to just for information, while also pursuing other sources of information. And so, yeah, please don't think you need to get a doctor. You don't need any credential to be able to create a successful business. You just need people that trust you. And so, however
Mm.
you create people that trust you is a way to build a viable business.
I love it, brother. And there's that level of trust, and especially if there's anybody having a vision right now or that's listening to saying, hey, you have this, uncertainty or maybe even feeling like an imposter, just go out there and try and do your best. And by you trying and doing your best, people will start to see that level of trust and that commitment, and as a result, kind of be attracted to you. Would you agree?
Yes, and also if you do something for the first time, it's never going to be as good as the last time you do it. And so that what that means is that the more you do something, the better you'll probably be at it, just like anything in the world. And where you start does not have to be where you end. But if you don't start, then it 100% will be. And
Mm.
so what are you doing to get better at what you care about? And the world, if you go and do the thing you care about and you show up and you listen intently with curiosity and instead of self-criticism and judgment, you're going to get better. And when you get better, people are also going to see what you care about and are going to be attracted to you. And then you're going to build trust in your community and in yourself. And eventually that turns into something special. It turns into just more of what you care about.
Beautiful. My bro, now with Live for Yourself Consulting, are you spending more time inside of the organizational development and leadership for these more bigger enterprise clients and perspective? Because I'm I'd love to know from the time that you were in those enterprises to the time that now you're maybe supporting those businesses, what's been the shift, and is there a shift, or is it still very traditional in the way that you see things? How are you navigating?
I bring very much my authentic self to the clients that I work with. And so generally that involves my passion for job satisfaction, for what's coined job crafting, which means taking accountability for your level of job satisfaction, meaning how are you crafting your day to fit you and fit what you want to create, and overall value congruence. So your personal values, how are you living them in your job, and how are you crafting your role to include them too? And so I do have larger enterprise clients still, probably about 40% of my where my work goes. And when they hire me, they're hiring that. They're yes, they're getting the leadership development, they're getting the coaching, they're getting the facilitation of workshops, but they get me asking them questions that relate to who they are at their core and how they're bringing that to work. I have my personal one-on-one clients, and they're kind of split too between the kind of the longer term executive coaching clients in regards to leadership development and personal life management, etc. But also the people that are looking for new positions and jobs, but that are more fulfilling. And it's just me in my authentic way intermixing the best practices in leadership development and career development. And I think that's when you bring, we talked about like how do you start a business? Well, you figure out what you care about. You figure out what you're going to be consistent in, and you get on your soapbox and you start preaching. And then eventually, people, you're going to get a crowd, and as long as you stay consistent, that crowd's going to trust you. And so my clients, when they hire me, they're also getting that part of who I am, which is why they also hire me.
That trust, and it comes back to that trust. It's like a good friend of mine. Uh, he's an amazing marketer. He said, the time of AI and attention, it's gone. Like I mean, AI is here, but what I'm saying is it's not just about the attention, it's about the level of trust. And because we're drowning in so much information, what people are starving for is really that desire to connect. And this is what I believe is going to separate. It's the consistency, it's the commitment, it's the willingness to really step up in a space of full authenticity, like you're already doing. And so I really acknowledge that because it's something that I believe is a must, especially inside of major enterprise and these big organizations. Because when I was inside of an organization, I didn't feel seen, heard, understood, or appreciated. Um, and in fact, there was limitations where it's interesting. You can go back to university and think to yourself, "Wow, you had so many great opportunities to step into the next stage." But then when you get into the next stage after university, you realize how much bullshit there is, and um, you realize how that fostering of innovation, from my perspective, was created in a limitation versus let's help this youth, this creativity, this magic to really expand and grow. And so, how do you see that changing, or do you see that changing inside of uh, these corporate America, corporate environments?
Oh, what a powerful question. Because we are not fostering resilience. We're not fostering a growth perspective or mindset. We're not fostering accountability. We're not fostering empowerment. And I honestly don't know what's going to happen on a grand scale when it comes to our educational system. I don't know what's going to happen on a grand scale when it comes to work. I know in the US specifically, we're very much a capitalistic society. So companies are going to do what's best for them, and people are going to have to adapt like they have during other, revolutions of work. And the world, other parts of the world has a little bit more balance when it comes to keeping, all aspects of the human, I think, in mind. I very much acknowledge that like my way of thinking is a very, very small subsection of the world. I am a niche individual, as I don't know if you would consider that yourself too, but I try to remember that there are a lot of people in the world that work because they just feel like they have to, and that some types of questions that maybe I work with clients on are very much a privilege and an aspect of, I think, the goodness and the greatness of where we are as a human, as a society, and in terms of the safety that we have. And I hope what an AI revolution might do is free us up for more time to think a little bit more about these questions and what fulfills us and how we want to live our life, and not just how we want to work in our lives. Because generally AI should increase productivity, but there's like I think the funny quote before from a different individual during the Industrial Revolution was they were talking about productivity and how if we keep going at this rate, none of us are going to have to work anymore. And that was at least the idea. But all that happened is we just worked more. And yeah, you can say maybe with AI, productivity will increase so much that we'll not have to work. But the problem is that's not at least the flavor of what companies want. They don't want people not to work. They want to, make more money and grow. So what does that mean for us? I think no matter what, it makes us more accountable to what we want to create in our careers. And so how do you leverage technology to do your job faster, easier, and then not do more work for the company? Just leverage the fact that you can do more work faster and then take that time and learn how to be bored and learn how to figure out what you want to fill your time with.
And do you think that integrating what you really want to do your time with and a passion for where you're working needs to coincide, or do you think that that's the responsibility of the corporate entity to create a level of culture that is redefined and enhanced so that the people within that culture, within that organization, are able to be following their heart's purpose?
I would love to hear your perspective on this too, because in terms of resilience, I think we've gotten to a point a little bit in some areas where we see something hard and we run or we blame. And work was never supposed to be this thing that fed every part of your soul. And I think companies that are trying to retain individuals and curate a certain culture, or maybe are run by certain individuals that care about something specific, have a passion for it. But now I almost feel that some individuals, not all, because some people are giving them too much of themselves to work, but some people that are seeking fulfillment or passion or purpose from their role have a hard experience and then say this isn't for me and they leave. But we know from like relationships that from dating and long-term relationships and other things in our life, if we care about something and it's difficult, we adapt, we flex, we become resilient within that moment, and we compromise and we evolve. And how do we then make our jobs work for us, just like we make relationships that we care about work for us? I think that's something that we need to start talking about a little bit more.
Yes, I totally agree with you. And that's where the angle of what I like to call business nirvana, right? How can we redefine the art of business and really focusing on this conscious entrepreneurship, because it's really a fulfilling one from my perspective, is how can we start to integrate a more meaningful responsibility and ability to respond in any environment that we're in. And as a result, step into this congruence of helping, just like this evolutionary theory, where Frederick Laroux, he actually talked about in reinventing organizations, and also Otto Scharmer from the Presencing Institute in MIT, from Theory U, they discuss this essence of being actually present into the moment to really, from that moment, find solutions for what we're really wanting to integrate. And I believe that if we create those spaces of thoughtful disagreement, of congruent conversations, of an ability to actually create safety and certainty within its culture, that will refine and help people go into areas of passion and purpose into their roles where they actually, like went into the leadership development and found this inherent nature of how you want to really serve at a higher level. And it's from this place that we get to define our future and step into a destiny that gives us an ability to move together towards a shared vision, a shared purpose, a shared. And from that place, I believe, because we're self-managing by principle, this is a natural law from billions of years ago. I mean, if we start to think that there's a disconnect between all of it, then we're by definition creating a separation, which is also an illusion. And if we, as organizations, become a living, breathing organism and really enhance each other's passion, purpose, we then start to actually create more meaning for the purpose as one, and everybody's doing or being their best. This is my perspective, and as a result, it changes the nature of feeling like we're actually going to work. It becomes play, it becomes fun, it becomes passion, it becomes where I'm going actually to spend time with my family that is also doing the same thing and on a bigger mission than just myself.
And it's easy to forget when all we can see is a paycheck or feeling stuck or not moving up in our career. I think what you just said, it places, I hope, a level of personal accountability on us to say, if I'm choosing to do this, then I need to also choose to feel that this creates meaning for me, to create a sense of purpose from it, and to show up in a way where I can be proud, and to show up in a way where I'm making this meaningful for myself and the people around me. And through that stance, you will then hopefully start asking for things that you need, for resources, for projects, for connection, which then you can trickle up. And a lot of people talk about trickling down. An organization creates purpose and trickles down to the rest of the rest of their employees. But I think we can also grow, grow upwards through an organization and change it in that way or impact it. And if we all came into work thinking that we're going to create meaning for ourselves, it'd be a pretty great place to work.
Hmm. And what do you think that would do uh, in the family dynamic? What would that do in the community aspect? How would that trickle not just within the organization, but then to all other areas of people's lives?
I mean, I hope what it would do is ultimately add more positivity and energy and potentially create even more productivity for these organizations, but more connections for the people that are working in those companies. I mean, if you have more positivity, you have more impact, you have more community, a lot of great things can happen external outside of also a company. It's almost, I have this idealistic version of how when work was not as global, when work was community based, and the people you worked with were the people that were your neighbors. And the work that you did felt like it was meaningful because it might have added to the community itself. It was something you were proud of. You there's something at least like I would envision as like idealistic about that, where what you're doing matters to you in either a way that it's connecting you to people that you know and could care about, creating something that you feel has an impact in the world. I mean, that in itself should be uplifting. It creates, I think, value from an individual. I think what we've lost a lot of today is people have stopped feeling valuable and people have stopped feeling like what they do matters. And if we lose sight of that, if we lose sight that we matter just because we are, and we can attach some of that to our work because it's part of us, I think it can impact, I mean, everything that we touch.
An integral space, a principle that I believe we get to then pass on to our future generations. So, with this being said, have you seen in your experience more organizations willing to step into that level of behavior? And is it something that is being discussed from your map of the world or your frame of reference?
I've seen more companies support the career growth and development and choices of individuals. So overall, I also recently saw a company pay for their for a very high level executive to explore if it was the right place for them. That was unbelievable. I've never experienced that before in my life. We support you so much, we care about you as a professional that we're going to pay for you to explore if you want to stay here because we want you to be happy. I don't think that's the norm, but it's unbelievable to see. And you see more companies investing in talent development programs that don't just talk about skill development, but talk about self-development. A lot of times leadership will be not just managing the work and managing people, but managing self. So companies are investing in that. And that is a powerful thing to see. Is it because they want to retain, or is it because they feel that it's their sense of responsibility? I don't think intent matters here. I just think it's that they're paying for it, which is an incredible thing. And I also see a lot of companies feeling responsible for helping people make a soft landing, which is basically like outside when they get laid off, companies supporting. I actually thought I've never really understood this. I'd love to hear your perspective. I had a bunch of clients that were like, I have a year of severance. I have 6 months of severance. I go, a company's paying you to go in the US. It's not as common as some other countries because I know that I had a client from Canada who was on a year of like career clarity, like fully supported like career clarity kind of project. But I just was surprising to me in the US that companies now are feeling responsible for helping individuals move into their next role. And that's a big shift. And that's really impressive. It has been part of society for a while, but it seems to be more prominent. Is that because they're being held responsible through social media, through TikTok bombing or whatever that's called nowadays that you're seeing like someone's getting fired and they're getting recorded? Again, I don't really care about the intent. I'm happy that it's happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if they're offering a space where people are being let go, but then supported, uh, my curiosity would be, although maybe the payment is there and the level of energy in terms of payment, how else could we support them even more? You know, the other day I was talking with an amazing soul from Mind Valley, and she talked about how people are maybe leaving Mind Valley, but the level of connection, uh, leaving Mind Valley for another offering, but they've been trained, supported, and they don't want to leave Mind Valley, but they end up leaving because it's something that they need to do to grow within themselves. But the connection stays and the relationship is still bonded. And so that becomes, from my perspective, an even more meaningful relationship because it's not about the money, it becomes part of the impact. And although people, yes, we need money to make things happen, to move things forward, and the organizations are paying for it, uh, is it also a benefit to each organization to really look after each other? Because then, as a result, those organizations get to come together for when it's time to co-elevate and come forward for an even more meaningful purpose. And so, I think that becomes a nuance. And these severance packages, I again, I feel like we can cultivate a more awareness within people by helping them get into another great opportunity or building them into another great opportunity. And that also comes down to the person, like how strong do we want to be when we're inside of an organization? How do we want to be led and how do we want to lead? It's up to us, I believe.
Hmm. Does always comes back to us. In terms of the helping people move into their next role, it would be wonderful to see companies take on that responsibility, a little bit more of that responsibility. It should be shared. It should be a shared accountability. I just started thinking about, well, don't you want your ex to say good things about you? You know? And so it's just good for your brand to think, even just going through life, what is the impact you want to have on the people around you and what stories you want them to tell? And, try to think about that too, lead with love, lead with with compassion, lead with care, uh, avoid judgment. And if we can apply like human traits and characteristics to a company, I think that would be incredible. I think it's difficult. I think it's dangerous because we have to remember too that we are responsible for our own professional success, not a company. If we give them too much, we give away our power, we give away our responsibility to ourselves and to our career. But it is nice to think about. It is nice to think about that a company could care and a
You
company
don't
should
think
support
we
their
can
people.
integrate that level of responsibility within an organizational capacity, just like, for example, Patagonia has been able to do, because there's some evolutionary awakened organizations out there that have integrated this type of
Yes,
self-management bias where everybody is empowered to work together as an organism versus a hierarchy.
yes. I think we can, and I think there are examples out there. I think it is a goal I think that we can pressure or promote or advocate for. I think there are a lot of companies that are not close, and
What do you
there
think
are
we
a
can
lot
do
of
more
people.
of to?
We need to have boundaries for who we work for. The problem is there are a lot of people out there, and I've worked directly with them too, that are interested in working for those companies that do not abide by conscious capitalism or compassion. They're not compassionate corporations. They care very little about the individual and they care about the bottom line. And people want to work for them because there are certain benefits, a certain status, their status symbols, or people have different goals and different values that they're trying to integrate into their career. So it would have to be a very, 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 we would have to say no to them and to their policies and to how they treat employees. And again, as I mentioned, we're a niche. I'm a niche. I'm an, I mean, as much as you want, you're a niche. And it's like, we're not everyone. We're creating, I think, a greater movement, but we still attract an audience that is attracted to our movement. And you can still plant seeds, but the seeds take a while to water. And there are still people, there are still villains, right? There are subsections of humanity that are still living in the world. And we can make a difference and we can help transform the world of work, but it is not what we're talking about is not for everyone, even though it might be ideal for us. At least that's my perspective.
Beautiful. I love it. I think we should. I had a conversation the other day with Casey Sheehan, who really implemented a lot of good things within Patagonia, from conscious capitalism and stuff like this. And it'd be good for you guys to meet at some point. I'll introduce
I'd
you
love
guys.
to. I'd
We'll
love
make
that.
some stuff happen because I do believe there's a more integral, uh, responsible role that a lot of us need to play as a team. We have to come together to do this. It's not about just one of us, it's about all of us, even though we may be a niche, there's strength in numbers. And by us integrating that as a family, as a true family that really knows and believes in something greater than ourselves, then get to we get to co-elevate. We get to really show up and show, uh, not by fighting, but by building something better. What is possible. And so we get to do this, brother. It's our time. It's exciting times, and I'm just blessed to have this connection with you, my dear friend. It's really a pleasure to hear, see, and understand you deeply.
I appreciate this time and your perspective, and to really also highlight that the work that I'm a part of is actually a movement. And that's pretty powerful to remember and to hear and to speak. And my battery, it's a little bit later here, is a couple notches higher, and I felt like I just got plugged in. So very much appreciated.
I appreciate you, brother. Benjamin, if anybody wants to know more about how and the magic that you're bringing, if they want to know more how you can help them in their organization, their leadership, their development, and really bringing out the best of what real success looks like, what is the best way to connect with you? How can they find more information about you? What's what's happening next for you. So maybe they could come to an event. I don't know. You let us know.
So go to liveforyourselfconsulting.com. If you don't like spelling that much or typing, lfyconsulting.com. And connect with me on LinkedIn, Dr. Benjamin Ritter. Send me a message. I'd love to keep the conversation going. And I hope to hear from some resilient minds in the near future.
Beautiful, my brother. I have a final question before, and I ask everybody this because for me, I believe that this is, I mean, it's an important part of our journey. If you had 3 days left to live, what would you do?
I'd call all of my clients, tell them that I was gonna die, that I love them, I miss them, and I wish them the best. And then I'd upload my consciousness into an AI bot so they could talk to me still, because I care deeply about them. And then I probably would spend a lot of time playing with my pets and telling the people that I love them. And if I had enough, I don't think only 3 days, I probably wouldn't have enough time. Actually, yeah, I probably would make sure that everyone that was around me could make use of the things that I built over my life. So I know this is silly, but like distributing, like getting all the legal stuff together, making sure they were taken care of. And then I probably would, man, read a good book, hug the person I loved, rested, got a good workout in. Like it would be pretty basic. It would be hug a tree, take some mushrooms, I would like just connect with the people, make sure that they knew I loved them, and then just relaxed. There's just relaxed and feel connected.
Bless you, brother. I'm grateful for you. Do you have any last insights or anything that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I'm finishing up a book right now called Becoming Fearless. It's just a bunch of tips, like I learn through tips, and something just popped in my head right now, and it's just that like a lot of us are chasing happiness. I think you probably have all heard this before, but we forget that we have to choose it. It can be really hard in certain situations. It's just we think we have to chase it because we get somewhere, and it's easier to choose happiness in that moment, just because things seem to be more aligned and working in our favor. We have to just remember that sometimes it's harder to choose it, but it doesn't mean that we can't. And I really hope that we've planted some seeds in some people to help them live a little every day a little bit more happier and more fulfilled and more accountable to that.
Amen, brother. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Big love.
Appreciate you.
Hey everyone, and thank you so much for listening to the Resilient Minds. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please make sure to go comment and like and follow us on iTunes or Spotify, and make sure, please make sure that if you really love this, to share this episode, and make sure that you're inviting all your friends to like it as we continue to unfold what the beauty of our minds does. More importantly, how powerful our heart level of intelligence can be when we combine our heart and our brain together. And more importantly, make sure you take the time to take a look at what we're doing at Balanced Media Ventures and how we can actually really support you in doubling your impact, your income, and your influence, and how you can bring your life's greatest vision into your purpose and create it from that level of reality. Talk to you soon.